The galaxy was vast, and the Galactic Empire ruled over countless star systems with an iron grip. Their fleets were legendary, their technology far beyond most civilizations, and their reputation absolute. Within their dominion, no species dared challenge their authority. None, that is, until the humans entered the scene. The Galactic Empire had only heard faint whispers of humanity, scattered transmissions from the outer rims of explored space. The humans occupied a cluster of star systems on the fringes, largely ignored as primitive and unremarkable. To the Empire, humans were little more than curiosities, backwater dwellers in barely habitable worlds. Their technology was deemed archaic, their military capacity negligible. None thought it worthwhile to invest much attention in them, but that was about to change. A scouting fleet, a small but highly advanced force of the Empire's warships, was dispatched to survey the human systems. Their orders were clear: assess the human strength, evaluate their resources, and if possible, convince them to submit peacefully to imperial rule. After all, incorporating new worlds was the Empire's way, bringing order and unity to the galaxy, strengthening their hold with minimal resistance. As the fleet entered human-controlled space, they expected to find easy prey. The human worlds appeared modest, industrialized but rough, many situated on harsh planets where life was a constant struggle. The Empire commanders dismissed the humans' rugged environments as a sign of backwardness, convinced that no species that lived on such brutal death worlds could pose a serious threat. However, the humans were far from oblivious to the approaching fleet. They had spent decades preparing. Their scientists had developed advanced early warning systems that detected the Empire's approach long before the scouts were expected. Military commanders convened, and the call went out across their colonies. Prepare for first contact with the galaxy's most feared power. What the humans lacked in sheer technological firepower compared to the Empire, they compensated for with ingenuity, resilience, and a fierce determination born from surviving hostile worlds. Their soldiers were hardened, adapted to environments that would kill most other species. These Deathworlders had fought among themselves for generations, evolving a brutal, unyielding fighting style. The human leadership, a coalition of military commanders and civilian governors, debated their course of action. Many advocated caution. An offer of peace and alliance could save countless lives. Yet others warned that the Empire's appetite for conquest was insatiable, and that submission meant the loss of freedom and identity. The consensus was clear: they would not bow. Meanwhile, the Empire fleet closed in. Their ships gleamed in the void, symbols of imperial dominance. The commanders expected to issue a simple ultimatum and receive a swift surrender. They underestimated the humans' tenacity, dismissing their warnings and preparations as desperation. On the human side, messages were sent to all colonies to mobilize defenses. Secret weapons caches were activated, and stealth fleets moved into position. Civilians were evacuated or recruited to support the war effort. In the silence of space, an uneasy tension hung thick. The Empire's arrival shattered the fragile peace of human systems. But instead of the easy conquest the Empire anticipated, they encountered a species that refused to yield, one whose survival instinct had been honed to a razor's edge. As the two forces neared confrontation, neither side could fully grasp the storm that was about to break. For the humans, this was a fight for survival and sovereignty. For the Empire, a test of their dominance that would reveal just how wrong their assumptions had been. The first sparks of war flickered on the horizon. The first encounter between the Galactic Empire and humanity was anything but peaceful. The Empire, confident in its superiority, expected little resistance. When their envoy arrived at the human frontier worlds with a demand for immediate submission and integration into the Empire's vast system, the humans' response shocked them to their core, an outright refusal. The Imperial commanders had anticipated compliance, or at least hesitation, not defiance. To them, humanity was a weak species from harsh marginal worlds, incapable of standing against the might of their fleet. But humans, forged in the crucible of brutal death worlds, had long ago learned to rely on their own strength and ingenuity. Their refusal was not mere bravado, it was a declaration that they would defend their freedom at any cost. Initial diplomatic exchanges quickly broke down. The Empire's message was clear: submit peacefully or face annihilation. The humans answered, with prepared fleets and fortified colonies, ready to resist. What the Empire had not accounted for was the sheer unpredictability of human tactics. As the Empire fleet opened fire on selected human outposts, targets chosen to intimidate and coerce, humans responded with fierce and effective resistance. Unlike the Empire's rigid formations and reliance on overwhelming firepower, humans adopted guerrilla-style space warfare. They utilized fast, smaller ships that could dart between debris fields and use the chaotic terrain of asteroid belts and planetary rings to their advantage. These hit-and-run attacks frustrated the Empire's heavy warships, which were designed for large-scale fleet battles, not small, nimble skirmishes. On the ground, human soldiers showed brutal tenacity. Imperial forces expecting quick surrenders found themselves bogged down in grueling urban and jungle battles. The humans' adaptation to death-world environments gave them an edge no Empire soldier had anticipated. Their endurance, pain tolerance, and willingness to use improvised weaponry made them unpredictable and lethal. Sabotage became a critical component of the human defense. Elite human teams infiltrated Imperial supply lines and communications, disrupting coordination and spreading confusion. The Empire's overwhelming technological advantage was blunted by the humans' willingness to fight dirty, their creativity in using the environment, and their refusal to play by expected rules. Imperial officers began to whisper among themselves about how their intelligence had seriously underestimated the humans. Reports came in of entire squads refusing to surrender even when surrounded, of pilots fighting to their last breath, and of civilians rallying to support the war effort in ways that confounded the Empire's assumptions. As the first skirmishes intensified, a turning point came when a key Imperial warship, the flagship of the scouting fleet, was heavily damaged by a coordinated human counterattack. This shocked the Imperial High Command and shattered their illusion of easy victory. The humans were not only resisting, they were fighting back with a ferocity and tactical ingenuity that threatened the entire mission. The Empire was forced to reconsider its strategy. No longer could they treat humans as a minor annoyance or a primitive species easily crushed by overwhelming force. Instead, humans were emerging as a serious threat, unpredictable, resilient, and utterly relentless. Meanwhile, the humans understood the gravity of what lay ahead. They knew the Empire would not back down easily, and that the conflict would escalate. But their resolve only hardened. Their leaders reminded their people that the stakes were nothing less than survival and freedom. The humans were prepared to pay any price to defend their worlds and their way of life. The first encounter was over, but the war was just beginning. Both sides had tasted battle, and both knew that the coming conflict would reshape the galaxy. The Empire's arrogance had blinded them to humanity's true strength, and that mistake would soon cost them dearly. After the initial shock of the Empire's underestimation, humanity was no longer content to simply defend. They knew that survival demanded more than just holding the line. They had to take the fight to the Empire. What had begun as a desperate defense was now turning into a bold counteroffensive that would shake the galaxy to its core. The humans had learned quickly. Their scientists and military strategists pooled their knowledge, blending the harsh realities of their death-world upbringing with rapid innovation. Using stealth technology developed in secret, small, fast strike teams slipped through the cracks of the Empire's vast control zones. Unlike the predictable movements of the Imperial fleet, these human forces were shadows, unseen, unheard, until they struck with brutal efficiency. Their first targets were Empire supply depots and communications hubs, critical arteries that sustained the invading forces. Human sabotage missions severed supply lines, leaving large Imperial warships stranded and vulnerable. These attacks were surgical and ruthless, carried out with a level of precision that surprised even the Empire's most seasoned commanders. But it wasn't just stealth and sabotage. Humans brought to the battlefield a terrifying ferocity born of centuries surviving on worlds where death was a constant companion. Their boarding parties were infamous for their relentless aggression and unmatched close-quarters combat skills. Imperial vessels once confident in their defenses found their hulls breached by small human teams armed with makeshift weapons and unyielding will. The Empire's heavy warships, accustomed to dominating through superior firepower and numbers, struggled to counter this new form of warfare. Imperial commanders realized their traditional battle doctrines were failing against an enemy that did not fight by the rules. The humans were unpredictable, willing to adapt instantly, to endure pain and loss that would break most species, and to turn the environment itself into a weapon. Human commanders issued a chilling warning across intercepted Empire communications. You were warned to run. This phrase echoed through the halls of Imperial command centers, a stark reminder that humanity's resistance was no fleeting spark but a blazing inferno. Meanwhile, the Empire scrambled to regroup. Larger fleets were dispatched to hunt down the elusive human strike teams, but the hunters often became the hunted. Human forces used hit-and-run tactics, exploiting the Empire's slower response times and cumbersome warships. They took advantage of asteroid fields, nebulae, and even the gravitational pull of nearby planets to mask their movements. On the home front, human society mobilized fully for war. Civilians supported the war effort with fierce dedication, repairing ships, manufacturing weapons, and maintaining critical infrastructure. Every human understood that this was a fight for survival, a war that would decide their future. The tide was beginning to turn. For the Empire, the realization was crushing. What had been dismissed as a minor nuisance was now a full-scale rebellion, threatening to unravel their plans. Key Imperial commanders were killed or captured, and several important outposts fell to human forces. The political factions within the Empire began to whisper doubts about the wisdom of engaging humanity so aggressively. Despite overwhelming odds and the Empire's vast resources, humans showed no signs of breaking. Their resilience and adaptability made them a nightmare opponent. They fought with a savage tenacity that seemed almost unnatural to the Empire's rigid hierarchy. As Part 3 closes, the Empire is forced to confront the terrifying truth. Humanity is not a species to be underestimated or controlled by force. Instead, they are predators in their own right, monsters awakened, ready to rip through the Empire's grand designs. The stage is set for a brutal escalation. The Galactic Empire, once confident of swift victory, now faces a foe they neither expected nor prepared for. The war has truly begun, and the Empire will soon learn why humans should have run when they had the chance. The Galactic Empire's patience had worn thin. The humans' relentless counterattacks and their unexpected resilience had transformed what was supposed to be a swift conquest into a grinding, costly conflict. Now the Empire responded with overwhelming fury, a calculated and brutal campaign designed to crush the human resistance once and for all. Mobilizing the full might of its war machine, the Empire dispatched massive fleets, armed with devastating weaponry and legions of soldiers, to systematically bombard human worlds. Their strategy was ruthless: annihilate everything that stood in the way of Imperial control. Cities were reduced to rubble, entire landscapes scorched by orbital bombardments, and civilian populations uprooted or conscripted into forced labor. The Empire believed that sheer force and technological superiority would finally break human will. But what they met was something far more formidable. On the front lines, human defenders fought with a desperate fury. Their battle-hardened soldiers, shaped by decades of surviving in death-world conditions, turned the scorched ruins of their planets into deadly traps. Using guerrilla tactics, they struck Imperial forces where they were weakest: ambushes in craters, sniper attacks from ruined skyscrapers, and improvised explosives hidden beneath debris. This was a fight where every inch of territory was fiercely contested. The humans' intimate knowledge of their worlds gave them a crucial edge. Harsh environments that the Empire deemed obstacles to overcome became natural fortresses for the defenders. Toxic atmospheres, unstable geology, and extreme weather conditions were all weaponized by human forces against their enemies. The civilian population also played a vital role. Far from passive victims, they provided crucial support, repairing damaged equipment, smuggling supplies, gathering intelligence, and occasionally joining the ranks of the resistance fighters. Families bonded by the shared hardship of war created an unbreakable social fabric that bolstered morale in the darkest hours. Empire commanders grew frustrated. Their technological marvels and numerical superiority seemed ineffective against human tenacity. Imperial propaganda machines struggled to maintain the narrative of easy victory as news of repeated setbacks filtered back through the chain of command. Despite mounting losses, human leaders refused to surrender. Charismatic generals and commanders inspired troops with speeches that recalled the brutal history of their species' survival. They emphasized unity, sacrifice, and the imperative to defend freedom against tyranny. The war had become not just a battle for territory, but a test of spirit. Amidst the carnage, moments of extraordinary heroism shone through. Soldiers who held their ground against overwhelming odds, pilots who rammed enemy ships to save comrades, civilians who risked everything to rescue the wounded. Each story added to the legend of humanity's unyielding defiance. As this crushing campaign reached its climax, the Empire prepared to deliver what they hoped would be a final, decisive blow. They focused on a major human stronghold known for its strategic importance and symbolic value. Imperial warships encircled the city, ready to unleash a full-scale assault that would wipe out resistance in a single strike. But the humans were ready. Beneath the ruins, hidden within vast underground networks, human forces prepared a massive counterattack. They had learned from every battle, adapted their tactics, and forged weapons scavenged from the wreckage. They were ready to fight not just for survival, but for victory. The tension mounted as Imperial forces tightened their grip. The fate of the human resistance hung in the balance. Would the crushing weight of the Empire finally break them? Or would the humans' fierce spirit blaze brighter than ever before? Part 4 ends with a looming battle. A confrontation where both sides will pour everything into a brutal, no-holds-barred conflict that could decide the war's outcome. The looming battle between the Galactic Empire's overwhelming forces and the fiercely determined humans marked a critical turning point in the war. Both sides were battered and exhausted, but the stakes had never been higher. The Empire's crushing campaign aimed to deliver a final decisive blow to crush human resistance and secure total domination. Yet, the humans refused to surrender. Their unyielding spirit and indomitable will would soon redefine the course of the conflict. As HFY, the Imperial fleet prepared their assault on the heavily fortified human stronghold. The defenders were anything but defeated. Beneath the devastated city, hidden within intricate tunnels and bunkers, human forces consolidated their strength. They used the ruins as natural fortifications, setting traps, mines, and ambush points to exhaust the enemy. Their commanders, coordinated with precision, using guerrilla tactics honed through years of fighting in hostile environments, the Empire unleashed its devastating arsenal, bombarding the surface with overwhelming firepower. Massive warships fired plasma cannons and missile barrages, reducing large swathes of the city to rubble. Imperial ground forces surged forward, expecting to crush the resistance quickly, but every step they took was met with fierce counterattacks and unrelenting human defiance. Human soldiers displayed extraordinary courage and tactical brilliance. Their intimate knowledge of the terrain allowed them to strike from unexpected angles and vanish before the Empire could retaliate. Despite inferior numbers and technology, they maximized every advantage their environment provided. But the true turning point was not only tactical, it was deeply psychological. Human leaders understood that their people's survival depended not just on military might, but on inspiring hope and unity. In defiant speeches broadcast over hidden communication networks, commanders reminded their people of their heritage, ancestors who had survived against all odds on death worlds where nature itself was an enemy. They framed the fight as a battle not just for territory but for identity, freedom, and the right to exist without oppression. These messages ignited a fierce pride and determination throughout human colonies. Civilians and soldiers alike drew strength from the shared struggle. They repaired weapons, built new defenses, and volunteered for dangerous missions. The war became a total effort, with every human contributing to the fight in their own way. On the Imperial side, cracks began to show. Reports of setbacks, unexpected casualties, and the inability to secure quick victories frustrated commanders and political leaders. Doubt spread through the ranks, and the once unified front of the Empire's military started showing signs of strain. Moreover, the Empire's political elite grew divided. Some advocated escalation and total annihilation, while others feared that continuing the war might provoke a wider rebellion among other conquered species inspired by humanity's example. The Empire's confidence was wavering, and their grip on the conflict loosened. The decisive moment came when a daring human strike team infiltrated an Imperial command station during a crucial battle. Using stolen codes and intimate knowledge of Imperial systems, they disrupted communications and disabled critical defenses, throwing the Empire's assault into chaos. This bold move bought precious time for human reinforcements to regroup and counterattack. The battle's momentum shifted. Where the Empire expected a quick victory, they found a determined foe who refused to be crushed. The humans' resilience and adaptability turned what seemed a desperate situation into an opportunity. By the end of Part 5, the Empire's forces were reeling. They had underestimated humanity's spirit, their ability to endure, adapt, and fight with unparalleled tenacity. The war had reached a pivotal moment where victory was no longer assured for the Empire. The stage was set for a final confrontation that would decide the fate of both species. Humanity had proven that they were not just survivors but warriors who could stand toe-to-toe with the galaxy's greatest power. The climactic final battle between humanity and the Galactic Empire was more than a mere conflict of weapons and tactics. It was a test of spirit, resilience, and the unbreakable will to survive. The Empire, once convinced of its absolute superiority, now faced the full fury of a species they had underestimated for centuries. Humanity was fighting not just for survival, but for their freedom and their right to determine their own destiny. After months of brutal warfare, the Empire's forces had been stretched thin, their logistical lines harried by constant human raids and sabotage. The once proud Imperial fleet had lost significant ships, and morale among their troops had reached a precarious low. In contrast, humanity had grown stronger and more unified, their resolve forged in the fires of countless battles. The final stand took place on a strategically vital system that served as the last bastion of human resistance. It was a place where humanity poured every resource and soldier they had left into a desperate effort to hold the line. The Empire, determined to crush this resistance once and for all, amassed their largest fleet and launched a full-scale invasion. What followed was a brutal, sprawling battle that raged across space and planetary surfaces. Imperial warships unleashed torrents of plasma and missile fire, while human fleets maneuvered with agility and daring, exploiting every advantage of the terrain, asteroid fields, nebulae, and orbital debris. On the ground, human soldiers used their intimate knowledge of the planet's hostile environment to ambush and harry Imperial forces, turning the terrain itself into a weapon. Despite the Empire's overwhelming firepower, humanity's combination of ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer determination turned the tide. The humans introduced innovative tactics and weaponry, including electromagnetic pulse devices that temporarily disabled Imperial technology and bioengineered armor suited for their harsh environments. The battle became a test of endurance. Imperial commanders were forced to rethink their strategies as their traditional doctrines failed to counter human unpredictability. Attempts to intimidate or overwhelm the humans through sheer force only hardened their resistance. Each failed assault on human positions cost the Empire dearly in ships, soldiers, and morale. Perhaps the most striking aspect of humanity's triumph was the unity forged from adversity. Diverse colonies and factions, often separated by vast distances and cultural differences, stood together with a common purpose. Human leaders who once quarreled now coordinated seamlessly. This cohesion amplified their strength, making them a formidable force unlike anything the Empire had faced before. In a pivotal moment, a daring human strike force launched a surprise assault on the Empire's command ship. They breached its defenses and seized control, sending a powerful message to the galaxy that humanity was no longer a conquered species, but a rising power. The capture of the command ship disrupted the Imperial fleet's coordination and shattered the illusion of their invincibility. The Empire's high command faced a harsh reckoning. Their arrogance, born of centuries of unchallenged dominance, had blinded them to humanity's true nature. The war had revealed not just human strength, but a spirit that refused to bow to tyranny. Faced with mounting losses and eroding control, the Empire was forced to retreat, marking their first defeat in centuries. Humanity's victory sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. It shattered long-held beliefs about the natural order of power and proved that even the mightiest empires could fall to those who refused to be broken. The Galactic Empire's first battle with humans ended not just in military defeat, but in a profound shift in galactic politics and perceptions. The story closes with humanity standing proud and defiant, having earned their place among the stars. Through blood, sweat, and unyielding will, the Empire, humbled but still dangerous, was forced to reconsider its approach to humanity. The message was clear. Humans were not a species to be conquered. They were a force to be reckoned with.